Good afternoon. This is Audrey Russo, President and CEO of the Pittsburgh Technology Council, and I'm joined today by Jonathan Kirsting on my team, who's Vice President of Visibility and all things media. Pretty excited about today, as I am each and every day, but I want to just set up today's call. And 10 weeks ago, the Pittsburgh Tech Council made a rapid pivot, just like many, to help keep our member companies connected and informed during what was the onset of this pandemic. Within just 3 days of the governor's shut-in order, we stood up this series, thanks to Zoom, called Business as Usual. So today is our 47th day of doing that, and we actually see no end in sight. And we're very, very thrilled. But we're also very, very understanding about what is happening in the community. And with 3,000 people have joined our sessions, some of them the same people, some of them different people. And with us hosting our 47th episode of Business as Usual, we also want to remind everyone that we have had elected officials, we have had the chairman of the FCC, we've had the Secretary of Health, we've had the head of OSHA. We've talked to people about the restaurant scene. We've talked about school districts. We've tried to make sure that students in our city schools and the regions around us actually get access to technology, because the digital divide has been so fractured and apparent. We have even hosted our first ever, using Zoom, virtual civic hackathon with some incredible output from that hackathon. We're hoping at least 2 of them forge into meaningful companies. And these sessions have really helped create the sense of community in a time when the community is so desperately needed. So Zoom has been a tremendous part and a tool of what we've been using to keep people connected. And we're thrilled to be counting this company as one of the newest members of the Pittsburgh technology ecosystem and to be hosting their global CIO this morning. So in a minute, I'll introduce Harry Moseley, who is with us from Westchester, New York. So this is the 47th episode of Business as Usual, but it's also the first time that we're hosting a joint session with our CIO Insight series, along with Business as Usual. So if you're new to the CIO Insight series, this is a long-standing series that we've had at the council, designed to really connect chief information officers with fellow members of the Tech Council and our entire ecosystem. So our next CIO Insights series programs are scheduled already. June 10th, we have Ray Huber. He's of Eaton Corporation. And on the 23rd of June, we're hosting Ed McAllister, the CIO of the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. So I want to give some thanks, and then we're going to dive right into our guest. First of all, thanks to Huntington Bank, because they have been our partners right from the beginning. And they have played an extremely important role with the Small Business Association, and they're the #1 lender and provider of support in southwestern Pennsylvania. But we also have some longstanding sponsors of our CIO Insight series, including CGI, which is one of the world's largest IT and business consulting firms with a very big presence in Pittsburgh's technology ecosystem. Comcast Business, another key Pennsylvania-based organization. They are actually based in Philly, but they have a huge presence in southwestern Pennsylvania. And they have been working to power the broader community. And that's a responsibility they've taken very seriously. They actually have really tried to help the digital divide as students have gone home and needed access to technology. And then, of course, there's Consult USA. They are an IT project manager, agile, and business analysis staffing solutions company. They're headquartered in Pittsburgh for over 22 years. So thanks to everyone. And now, without further delay, I really want to welcome today's guest, Harry Moseley, Global CIO for Zoom. And I want to just jump right in. So thank you, Harry. Thanks for joining. I think I've told everyone that you are here from New York. Not the city is the joke that I like to say growing up, but definitely in Westchester and close enough. And actually at the epicenter of the East Coast, what happened in COVID. So thank you so much for being here. Can you talk about the factors that led to Zoom to expand outside of your existing footprint, and maybe share a few details about what we can expect here in Pittsburgh?
Absolutely. First off, Audrey, thank you and the team for hosting these daily sessions. I think it's terrific that you do that and keeping people connected. So on behalf of all, thank you.
Thank you.
Also, thank you for inviting me to chat with you guys this morning. Terrific to be here. So we live in exciting and unprecedented times. And so Zoom, we selected Pittsburgh in part because of its growing diverse and well-educated population. Roughly there are apparently about 45,500 tech professionals, growing at something like about more than 20% over the last 7 years. And it's one of the country's largest share of college-educated millennials who are fueled by regional universities and schools that have more than 44,000 degrees and certificates, including 12,000 in the tech fields. It's also attractive because of the proximity to CMU, which is a world-class faculty and students, and their research have helped make Pittsburgh a global technology leader in AI, robotics, healthcare, and other verticals. Number one ranked School of Computer Science, number one Information and Technology Management program. And then they've got sponsored research where companies can partner with CMU researchers and students working on ideas that will revolutionize industry, broadly speaking. And then there's a couple of other factors on our decision. One is that it's located within 500 miles of half of the country's buying power, and about 45% of the population, including 10 of the country's largest cities. So, and as we were saying in the preamble before we opened it, it's a beautiful city, so why not?
Well, I love your sales pitch there, so I'm definitely going to continue to use that, and I probably will levitate some of the information because you're exactly right. I mean, we are completely enabled thanks to Carnegie Mellon and the work that comes out of there. But there are a lot of other things coming in that that are coming out of other areas, and you will see them once you start to get engaged. So, like many businesses, all of us were familiar with Zoom prior to this pandemic, but certainly not using it to the capacity. And certainly it wasn't even, was it a verb? I mean, I think right now we are using that as a verb, and it is embedded into our world. And as a trade association, we traditionally host 100 in-person events a year and almost 0 virtual events. Okay, I'm not necessarily proud of that, but we've had to make a pivot. So fast forward to today, we're now hosting as many as 3 virtual events per day. So today we're hosting this session as well as a 750-person virtual job fair, and we're kicking off a 1,000-person STEM summit for local students and teachers over the next several days. So we've seen our engagement in programs triple to normal participation. I know that will make you happy. And we've attracted engagement from across the nation, but from people in our state who weren't always able to travel to in-person programs. So in short, these platforms like Zoom has transformed how we do business, how we think about business, and even for the long term, not just for the short term. So share with us the journey that Zoom has been on during this pandemic.
Yeah, so, it's, we've had this maniacal focus, quite honestly, on sort of how can we keep the economies of, sort of a variety of countries keep on functioning and keeping people connected in the time of isolation. And so we're very proud about the fact that we have literally thousands of global enterprises running on our platform. We're supporting various different government agencies in numerous countries. And as you know, we lifted the minimum time on the free service and provided the software for free for K through 12. So we're very proud of the fact that we have over 100,000 schools in 25 countries running on our platform. So, supporting this influx of users has been a tremendous undertaking and our sole focus. I'm sure everybody read the numbers, that we we shared recently. In December, we had 10 million daily participants. In March, it grew to 200 million daily participants. And then in April, we shared that we had over 300 million daily participants on the platform. So it's truly been a really interesting time at Zoom. And we've strived to provide uninterrupted service, and at the same time, our sort of user-friendly experience that has made Zoom the video conferencing platform of choice for enterprises around the world, while also ensuring safety, privacy, and security. And for the to support this increase in demand for support, we took a variety of steps. Created sort of easily accessible webinars to train people. We put out a whole variety of tutorials and other content addressing users' most frequently asked questions, training programs, etc. We redeployed individuals in the company because we too, like many companies here, probably all companies here, we are sort of all working from home, and therefore certain roles don't have to be fulfilled when you're not working from the office. So we redeployed some of our staff to other areas to address support, and we've been hiring additional resources in that regard as well.
So, are you able to keep up pace from the staffing perspective with the increased demand?
Yeah, so, and that's it's a great question. We as we announced on April the 1st, we pivoted our entire engineering team. Oh, I love that. You see, this is like, it's great. I'm looking here at Seth Beckerman. Sorry, Seth, picking you out here, but it looks like you're holding a child in your hand. I think that's absolutely fantastic that we're doing that. That's great. I don't know if it's an image or if it's a video stream, but either way, it's terrific that he feels comfortable doing that. Just as a sort of interesting sort of anecdote while on that. Oh, there he is. Look at that.
Oh, there.
Very cool. Just as an interesting anecdote, I was on a board meeting a few weeks back, and the CEO was doing his board presentation, and his wife walked in and said, "Would you mind holding the baby?" And so he goes, "Sweetheart, it's like I'm on a board meeting." She goes, "I didn't ask you what you're doing. I said, can you hold the baby for 2 minutes? I need to go outside." So here, and the baby's like in the middle of the camera, and then he just continues with the presentation, and then she comes in a few minutes later, takes the baby away. I mean, I think that's it's I think that's suddenly like the cat walks past the camera and no one says anything. I think that's all wonderful stuff. So as we announced on April the 1st, going to your question, Audrey, as we announced on April the 1st, we pivoted our entire engineering team to focus on our 90 days accelerated efforts around security and privacy. So we've made, sort of dozens of updates in the last few weeks, around security and privacy. We, hired in additional resources like Alex Stamos, who's a well-known and highly regarded tech industry security expert. We put in data routing controls so people, enterprises can select where they want their data routed, where they want their meetings hosted. We introduced Zoom 5.0, which is comes with AES 256 GCM encryption, which will be turned on on May the 30th. We did an acquisition of Keybase, which is a secure messaging and file sharing service, and this team is going to help us build out our end-to-end encryption service that we published a paper on last Friday. So we've been really, really busy, and we intend, we're really busy in the security and privacy perspective. And but we will get back to focusing on innovation when this 90-day period is up on June 30th. And we've been, sort of hiring. Keybase is clearly an indication of that, hiring technology talent because we've always been known for innovation. We've always been known to have a cost-effective solution. We've always been known for easy to use. We've always been known for reliability. And we want to be the most secure platform when it comes to unified communications and collaboration on the planet. And that's our target.
It's,
You know,
yeah,
you've done,
it's supposed to be the most amazing time for you to be doing what you do, I have to assume. I mean, this has to be just like crazy for you.
Yeah, you know, it's on a personal level, it's, you know, it's I think some of you guys know that I retired from KPMG in December of 2017, and 4 days later the phone rang and it was like, "Hello, Zoom." And I remember the conversations back then, and so somebody recently asked me, "So Harry, you know, several years from now, and you meet somebody and they say, so when you were at Zoom, you lived through the, you know, COVID-19. What was the experience like? What were you thinking?" And so I'll answer that now, because I don't think the answer will change. It goes something like the following. You know, so a little over 2 years ago, I joined this technology startup called Zoom, based in San Jose, a little over 800 employees. Privately held, relatively well known in the tech community, relatively well known in US, sort of known in Europe, not that well known in Asia Pacific. So you fast forward 2 years later, this little startup is now a public company on NASDAQ. We're almost 3,000 employees across 18 offices that are all closed. And here we are, you know, sort of in the epicenter of keeping economies running, keeping countries functioning, and educating literally millions of students every day. How does it feel? Incredibly humbling. Incredibly humbling. It is. I get it every time I tell that. I get a shiver down my spine, thinking about the impact this tiny startup that started 9 years ago by Eric Yuan is having, the impact this tiny company is having on the world.
it's pretty exciting. That's why you're going to love being in Pittsburgh and building your presence, because that's the story that people tend to articulate when they're from here. So Harry, here's something, and I know that, you know, these additions of security have been tremendous, but you've done so much to transform the business community, but you've done a lot for education. So can you talk about some of the lessons and the growth there?
In education?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, we've, ever since our early days, we, you know, sort of Zoom has always been in the educational space, and particularly serving higher education, you know, sort of since the platform was introduced early in 2012. It's always been well connected into the higher education space. And but as this pandemic broadened, you know, sort of across the planet, it broadened our view of what it means to be a video communications technology company in times of need. And so we saw, you know, educators grappling with how to teach, and, you know, sort of students, you know, schools closing, students being sent home, etc. And so we were compelled to act, and we just offered our services to help anyone who needs it. And I remember it really well in my own kitchen, because one evening I was making dinner, I think it was the second week of March, the week of March 9th. And my wife, who's the CIO for our local school district, was struggling to get the cabinet, that's what they call the management committee in the school, struggling to get them up on a meeting. And I was, and she knows she could have Zoom, but because she's married to me and I work at Zoom, she felt like there was a conflict of interest to sort of say something. In the end, somebody said, "Well, any chance we can get Zoom?" So she kind of like looked across the, you know, looked across the center island and said, "I just asked, can we get Zoom?" I said, "How long do I have?" She said, "I don't know, about 10 minutes." I said, "Well, I think we can do that." And because that's how quickly we moved, and how quickly we still move. And so, you know, we removed, as I said before, we removed the 40-minute limit on the free basic for the schools. And we ramped up the need to meet the demand. We were adding literally thousands of servers. We were, working 24/7. We were increasing network capacity. So increasing network capacity, adding servers, making changes to the platform at a ferocious pace, was rather astonishing. Yeah.
So I was looking to see if there was any questions, but I in the early days of business as usual, it's so funny to say that now. In the early days, 40 some odd days ago, we experienced
13 weeks, by the way.
Yeah, we actually experienced some resistance from speakers from large multinational companies who had issued blanket prohibitions on the use of Zoom. And Brian Kennedy on our team was adamant about trying to figure out, no, we're going to proceed, with Zoom because you were the most inclusive. Those were his words, that you were the most inclusive. And, in most of the cases, we were really able to share security settings and practices and work to create exceptions. How much of a problem has it been for Zoom? And how are you working? I mean, I know through some of the acquisitions, you're working to allay some of those fears. But long ago, 47 days ago, that was what we were hearing.
Yeah, and there was a lot of headlines back then. But as I said before, in April we announced our 90-day plan, pivoted the organization, brought in some pretty serious talent. We talked about the data routing. We made changes to the platform where we put the privacy shield right into the client, so you can actually control the security features in Zoom from the client. We made some changes to the default settings. So by default, it's waiting room, by default, password control. In the education sector, as an example, in the education sector, we changed the default such that the host has complete control over chat and content sharing and things like renaming. And the reason for that is that the host is the teacher. So if you have a class of, 11-year-olds, you don't want little Johnny coming into your class and renaming himself from, sort of Johnny Smith to sort of Mickey Mouse, because he kind of thinks that would be funny, and share it with his class. So we disabled that unless the host, the teacher, enables that. The other thing we did was, disable the ability for anybody to content share unless, again, the teacher grants permission, because you don't want, an 11-year-old suddenly in the middle of class to start sharing photos of their, family or of their little puppy that they just got in the middle. So did a bunch of changes like that. And then we talked about sort of data routing and the encryption and key-based acquisition. So we've made quite a significant number of changes, and some of them were subtle, like removing the meeting ID, from the top bar of the video screen. It's like, I remember, Boris, the Prime Minister of England, sort of tweeted a photo of him using Zoom, and the meeting ID was right there. Now we've disabled the ability for people to, sort of from the enterprise in using personal meeting IDs to schedule meetings, because people use those for like dinner parties, use it for cocktails. And then in the middle of a business transaction, you don't want sort of like your cousin turning up from the cocktail party the night before. So a lot of different use cases and constituents. We have church services are hosted on Sundays and weekends. We've got weddings, we've got birthday parties, yoga classes, drum lessons. We had an opera singer. You've got like Oprah doing her worldwide wellness program on Saturday mornings at 11 o'clock. We did, we supported the NFL in their draft. You've got the theatrical performances from Hamilton that were done from people's homes, posted on YouTube. I mean, use cases just sort of are off the reservation. And Saturday Night Live, of course, that was fun. So yeah, it's
that's right.
Yeah,
it's been great.
Yeah,
The connectivity is astounding, And I think we're only at the beginning of it. There are a bunch of questions, Jonathan. I want to see if we can sort of get them in for Harry.
So many. So, I mean, just to cover it quickly, people are really excited about what's happening in Pittsburgh. Is there some time frames, number of positions you're hiring for? Have you picked a location yet? All the fun details.
Yeah. Well, we said we want to hire 500, engineers between Pittsburgh and Phoenix. I don't think that we've sort of agreed on, like, sort of the number for each city.
499 here and one over there, if you want. Good ratio.
It's way too early to even think about a physical office, to be honest. Internally, we've announced that we aren't going to be reopening any of our offices before Labor Day.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's subject to review, but certainly nothing before Labor Day, because people need to plan, make personal plans, right? So nothing with respect to a physical office yet in Pittsburgh, but, sort of people, if they're interested in considering an opportunity with Zoom, then, they can apply through our website. Our careers page is up, positions are posted. Initially we will, be working from home. So we do virtual onboarding. Big surprise. But like every organization, we do it really well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Audrey, we have some questions from Lauren from the Post Gazette. She's got some really good stuff. Could we bring her on live to ask the questions?
Okay.
And be able to mute her?
Hi, this is Lauren Rosenblatt. I'm a reporter with the Pittsburgh Post Gazette. You had mentioned that you guys were increasing network capacity. Can you just talk a little bit more about that struggle and what you did to make sure you could handle it? And then long term, assuming these increases keep going up, what are you going to do to make sure you can keep handling it?
Yeah, so thank you for the question, Lauren, and thank you for being here. Capacity is something that we've always been monitoring. We monitor that very closely. We've always maintained significant headroom between what we see as peak capacity and what we have available. We have a very horizontal technology architecture, which scales extraordinarily well. We have 17 data centers around the world. We have partnerships with Amazon and Oracle Cloud, so we can scale out using those as necessary. So we're constantly in the process of monitoring, managing, and upgrading, whether it's the network or the data center capacity. And so that's how we scale.
Very cool. And we have another reporter, I believe, as well from PXI. Is Angie there? We can maybe unmute her too for her questions. We can go to Jay Glunt's question. He's got a great question. He says, he has many thanks for you stopping by today, Harry. He wonders if Zoom sees a future in developing hardware users might want to use, such as webcams, earbuds, and microphones.
So when I remember very well when I was when I first met Eric Yuan in January of 2018, and because I was asking him why Zoom when there was sort of a lot of competitors out there, so we got into talking about the technology architecture. But one of the things that he said to me back then, I remember crystal clear. He said, "Harry, we are a software company. We will always be a software company." And as Andreessen said, I guess it must be 10 years ago now, that software is eating the world. And and we have fantastic partnerships with great hardware providers. Whether it's Logitech or Crestron or Poly or HP or Dell or D10, Neat, etc. I mean, the list just goes on. And what they do is they take our great software, they embed our great software in their great hardware, and sort of it's the power of 1 + 1 doesn't give you 2, it gives you 3 or better. So it's like it's a terrific experience. Let people do what they do really well. We do software for unified communications on steroids extraordinarily well. Let the hardware guys do what they do extraordinarily well.
Right. Jonathan, there are a few more questions, right? I see from.
Absolutely. I wasn't sure if we were able to get Angie on or not, but let's go over here to Colin Dean. He says, how does Zoom approach community engagement in the areas it establishes its physical presences?
Yeah, so we're a big believer in giving back and supporting local communities. I mean, that's something that we're known for. So we always engage. And I'm pretty sure, Audrey, sort of, we should probably chat about that. How can we engage with the
Right.
Pittsburgh Technology Council in
Right.
a more meaningful way? And so we really focus on community and giving back. And so you'll see, as they say in life, watch this space. You will see some good things coming from Zoom.
Mhm.
Very cool.
Well, as you can see, we're pretty committed to Zoom, Harry. Whether you were
Thank you
on
for
the
that.
show,
I
whether
need a
you were
Zoom t-shirt. Come
on
on,
the
let's
show
go.
or not.
T-shirts.
Where's your T-shirt?
I want a Zoom t-shirt.
So how, one of the questions is, how does Zoom plan to market products? Do you have a sales team or corporate clients of focus?
Yeah, so we have a variety of different sort of sales channels, if you will. So we have our online, so people can go online, they can purchase through that. Then we have, a variety of different direct sales lines, all the way up to our, global enterprise. And then we establish great partnerships with great companies, big global organizations, etc. So that's how our sales is sort of a distributed model.
Well, Henry and all our guests, thank you all for being here. We just like to take 30 minutes or so out of each day to keep people connected. And we're thrilled that we're using Zoom. I'm thrilled to see you, Harry. And I know that we'll meet one day soon. And we're very, very excited about Pittsburgh. We're very excited about your commitment.
I'll probably drive though.
That's okay. That's okay. It's a nice.
Wouldn't be, as I said before, it won't be the first time I've driven to Pittsburgh. But just before we hang up, again, thank you, Audrey and team, for hosting me this morning on this terrific session. Great to meet everybody here virtually. I'm sure at some point in the future we will have our office opening in Pittsburgh, and then I look forward to meeting people in person at the reception for that. And Audrey, ping me separately about how we can partner.
Yes, absolutely.
With your great organization, and thank you.
No, absolutely. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Thank you, Harry. Thank you for being so candid with us and taking your time. This is awesome. We will toast to the future because I know that it'll be a strong one. Tomorrow, we actually have State Representative Dan Frankel, who's actually introduced some legislation for contact tracing. So join us for that. We have lots in the hopper over the next few days. Again, thanks to Zoom. Thanks to Zoom for us being able to do this each and every day. And thanks to Harry Moseley, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Be safe.
And last comment is stay healthy, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.